How to shift from scarcity to prosperity. Thinking instantly. What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want isn't money, isn't luck, isn't timing, but a single shift in the way your mind interprets reality? What if prosperity isn't something you chase, but something you activate? And what if that activation could happen instantly, today, right now, as you watch this video? Most people spend their entire lives trapped in a mental loop of scarcity without even noticing it. They wake up thinking about what's missing, what might go wrong, what they don't have enough of. They carry this invisible weight on their shoulders, believing they're being realistic, when in truth, they're reinforcing the very limitations they desperately want to escape. And this is exactly why so many talented, hardworking, honest people stay stuck financially, emotionally, and spiritually, because their minds are programmed to see lack instead of possibility. But here's the truth the world's wealthiest people know. Prosperity is not a result of your circumstances. Prosperity is a result of your consciousness. Your inner state shapes your outer results. A prosperity mindset doesn't magically appear after you become rich. It appears before, and it is precisely what creates the opportunities, clarity, decisions, intuition, and internal strength that lead to wealth. You've seen this pattern everywhere. People like Oprah, who went from poverty to billionaire status, not because her circumstances changed first, but because she changed first. People like Jim Carrey, who wrote himself a check for $10 million long before he ever earned that amount, because he believed so deeply in the power of aligning the mind with the outcome. Companies like Apple, Tesla, and Amazon didn't rise because they followed the mindset of scarcity. They rose because someone believed in a vision bigger than the current resources available. They believed before they had the proof. They acted before they had the money. They moved with the mindset of prosperity when everyone else was moving with fear. That's why they created breakthroughs the world thought were impossible. So today, you and I are going to do the same. We're going to unlock a shift inside you that wealthy thinkers, successful creators, and abundant leaders all have in common. And once you understand this, once you apply it, the way you think, feel, act, and attract opportunities will never be the same again. This video is not about positive thinking for the sake of feeling good. It's about rewiring the mental codes that control your behavior, your decisions, your energy, your financial vibration, and your future. It's about switching from the emotional frequency of fear to the emotional frequency of abundance, from survival mode to expansion mode, from not enough to more than enough, from waiting for prosperity to becoming the source of prosperity. And the best part? This transformation doesn't require years of effort. It doesn't require affirmations that don't feel real. It doesn't require you to fake it till you make it. You can shift your inner state instantly when you understand the mechanisms that create scarcity and the principles that unlock prosperity thinking. If you stay with me through this video, you're going to feel something change inside you, something click, something open, a clarity you may have been searching for years. And when that happens, your energy shifts, your perception shifts, and suddenly the world responds to you in a completely different way. This is your moment, your turning point, your doorway into a new identity where abundance becomes your default setting. Let's begin. Topic 1. The hidden mechanics of scarcity thinking and why it feels so real. Scarcity doesn't start with money. It doesn't start with your bank account, your career, the economy, or the opportunities around you. Scarcity begins in your nervous system. It begins in the stories your mind repeats, the emotional patterns your body memorized years ago, and the invisible beliefs that quietly shape every decision you make. The reason scarcity feels so real, so heavy, so convincing is because it's not just a thought pattern. It's a survival mechanism. Your brain is literally programmed to detect danger faster than possibility. It's designed to protect you, not expand you. That's why you can want prosperity with all your heart and still sabotage yourself without noticing. Think about it. How many times have you had a powerful idea but talked yourself out of it because it felt too risky? How often have you dreamed of something bigger but immediately felt guilt, fear, or doubt? How many times have you looked at wealthy people and thought, even for a second, that's not for me, or people like me don't get that far? Scarcity is not just the absence of money. Scarcity is the presence of fear disguised as logic. It makes hesitation feel like safety. It makes playing small feel like responsibility. It makes self-doubt feel like realism. And this is exactly why so many brilliant people stay stuck, because scarcity thinking is subtle, intelligent, and highly persuasive. Let's go deeper. Scarcity activates the same part of the brain responsible for detecting threats. When you believe you don't have enough time, money, opportunities, you shift into a biological state where your mind restricts creativity, intuition, and strategic thinking. You operate from contraction, not expansion. You think in short-term survival instead of long-term prosperity. This is why when you're stressed about money, everything feels harder. Your ideas don't flow. Your energy collapses. You don't make bold decisions. You choose the safer path, even when it doesn't lead anywhere. You shrink your dreams to match your fears instead of expanding your actions to match your potential. And here's the most shocking part. Scarcity thinking doesn't only show up in tough times. Many people earning well, living comfortably, or surrounded by opportunities still think from scarcity. Why? Because scarcity is emotional, not situational. You can have a great salary and still fear losing everything. You can be talented and still believe you're not good enough. You can have opportunities and still hesitate to take them because you're terrified of making the wrong move. Prosperity is not about what you have. It's about what you believe you deserve, what you expect, and what you allow yourself to receive. Now let me show you something powerful. Look at the world's wealthiest and most successful people. They experienced challenges far greater than yours, yet they didn't collapse under them. Why? Because they interpreted their circumstances through a prosperity lens, not a scarcity one. Take Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She started with $5,000 in savings. She had no investors, no experience, no connections. By all logical standards, she should have played safe. But she didn't. Why? Because she didn't allow scarcity thinking to dictate her decisions. She believed her idea had value before anyone else believed it. That's prosperity thinking. Or think of Jeff Bezos starting Amazon in a garage with nothing but a computer, a vision, and the belief that the future he imagined was possible, even when the numbers, resources, and market conditions didn't support it. That's prosperity thinking. Or Oprah, who came from extreme poverty yet built an empire rooted in the unshakable conviction that she was meant for more. Prosperity thinking always begins before the results show up. Scarcity blinds you. Prosperity reveals. Scarcity blocks opportunities. Prosperity attracts them. Scarcity makes you wait for proof. Prosperity makes you become the proof. Most people don't realize that the moment they say, "I can't," "it won't work," "I don't have enough," or "I'm not ready," they're not describing reality. They're creating it. The mind that can only see limitations will never generate expansion. You cannot create wealth from a mindset that is constantly expecting loss. You cannot create prosperity from an inner state that is vibrating fear. You cannot rise when every thought pulls you back down. But here's the breakthrough. Scarcity thinking is not your identity. It's a habit you learned, absorbed, repeated, and normalized. And if it's a habit, it can be replaced. It can be rewired. It can be transformed. And the shift happens the moment you stop believing the emotional stories of fear and start questioning them. When you catch yourself in the loop of not enough, you interrupt the illusion. When you expose the belief to the light of awareness, it loses its power. Scarcity cannot survive in a mind that recognizes its own potential. This is the turning point. When you start understanding the mechanics of scarcity, when you become aware of how it operates inside you, you unlock the freedom to choose a different state, a different interpretation, a different reality. Scarcity only controls you when you don't see it. Once you see it, you can dissolve it. And that is the first and most powerful step toward prosperity thinking. This is where your transformation begins. Because now that you understand the invisible architecture of scarcity, you'll finally be able to shift into a new level of consciousness, a level where your thoughts align with opportunity, your energy aligns with abundance, and your decisions align with the version of you who is ready to expand. From this point forward, every part of you begins to move toward a richer, lighter, more empowered inner state. And that inner shift is where real prosperity is born. Topic 2, the instant shift. How prosperity thinkers rewire their reality in the present moment. There is a moment, an exact, precise moment, when a person's life changes. Not when the money arrives, not when the opportunity shows up, not when someone finally validates their dreams. The real shift happens in the moment a person decides to stop thinking from fear and begins thinking from possibility. This internal decision, this microsecond of conscious choice, is what separates people who remain trapped in scarcity for decades from those who step into prosperity thinking instantly. And what's fascinating is that this shift does not require evidence, luck, or external change. It requires only awareness and intention. Most people believe that their thinking is automatic, almost mechanical, as if thoughts happen to them instead of through them. They believe their emotional responses are inevitable, and because they believe this, they never challenge them. They associate fear with truth. They associate doubt with logic. They associate their past with their future. But prosperity thinkers see reality differently. They understand the brain is plastic, flexible, reprogrammable. They know that every belief, every pattern, every emotional response is simply a learned reaction. And anything learned can be unlearned. Anything repeated can be replaced. Anything believed can be upgraded. The instant shift begins the moment you realize that scarcity thinking is not a reflection of the world. It's a reflection of your inner state. When you change the interpretation, you change the experience. When you change the experience, you change the energy. And when you change the energy, you change the results. This is exactly why people like Steve Jobs, even when facing bankruptcy, kept thinking from expansion. He said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward." That sentence is prosperity thinking in its purest form. It means trust the vision more than the fear. Trust the possibility more than the limitation. Trust your inner compass more than the temporary circumstances around you. This shift becomes even more powerful when you understand its mechanism. In a single moment of awareness, you interrupt the autopilot survival loop. Scarcity is automatic. Prosperity is intentional. Scarcity is reactive. Prosperity is responsive. Scarcity waits for conditions. Prosperity creates conditions. And the moment you consciously decide to observe your thoughts instead of being consumed by them, the emotional frequency inside you begins to rise. You step out of the unconscious fight-or-flight mode and into a state of expansion, creativity, intelligence, and intuition. Your mind becomes more strategic. Your decisions become more aligned. Your energy becomes magnetic. This is why people often say that once they changed their mindset, everything suddenly started working. It wasn't magic. It was alignment. Before the shift, they were thinking, acting, and vibrating from fear. After the shift, they were thinking, acting, and vibrating from abundance. The opportunities were always there. The clarity was always there. The ideas were always there. They just couldn't see them from the emotional frequency of scarcity. Think of a radio. The music doesn't disappear when you're on the wrong frequency. It's still there, playing clearly, beautifully, consistently. You're just not tuned in. Prosperity works exactly the same way. When your mind is tuned to fear, you miss the ideas that lead to breakthroughs. When your mind is tuned to doubt, you miss the timing that leads to transformation. When your mind is tuned to limitation, you miss the opportunities that were literally right next to you. The moment you shift your emotional frequency, you begin to hear the solutions that were always available. This is how millionaires think. They don't wait until they are wealthy to feel abundant. They generate abundance internally, long before the physical manifestation appears. They create the frequency first. The frequency creates the behavior. The behavior creates the result. Look at Warren Buffett. He didn't build his empire because he had more money than others. He built his empire because he had a different relationship with money, one rooted in long-term abundance, not short-term fear. When others panicked, he saw opportunity. When others pulled back, he invested. When others thought from scarcity, he thought from stability, long-term growth, and possibility. And you can see this pattern in every story of wealth creation. Millionaires, creators, innovators, artists, entrepreneurs, they all have one moment where they stop living as a mirror of their circumstances and start living as a mirror of their vision. That is the moment you shift reality. That is the moment you break the illusion of scarcity. That is the moment you step into prosperity consciousness. But here is the part people often misunderstand. The shift is not loud. It is not dramatic. It doesn't require meditation retreats, long affirmations, or spiritual rituals, although those can help. The shift is often quiet, subtle, internal. It can happen while you're sitting in your car, lying in bed, watching a sunrise, or even right now listening to this video. It happens in a single breath when you stop aligning with fear and start aligning with your higher intelligence. The intelligence that knows you were not born for survival, you were born for expansion. Prosperity thinkers rely on one profound truth. Your current situation is not your final destination. Circumstances are temporary. Consciousness is what creates the next chapter. When you change the consciousness, the circumstances inevitably follow. This is why those who think abundantly rise faster than those who wait for the right moment. The right moment is not something you wait for. It's something you create with the energy you choose to embody. So how do you make this shift instantly? You interrupt the old pattern. You breathe. You question the fear. You observe the thought. You detach from the story. You replace it with a new interpretation rooted in possibility. And in that moment, even before anything changes on the outside, the inside begins to expand. You feel lighter, you feel clearer, you feel stronger, you feel more open. And this emotional shift becomes your new point of attraction. Your life changes the moment you decide to think from abundance rather than fear. And that moment can be now. Topic 3. Reprogramming your internal narrative, the identity shift that creates prosperity. Every person carries an internal narrative, a story they tell themselves about who they are, what they deserve, and what is possible for them. This narrative operates quietly, automatically, shaping every emotional reaction, every decision, every financial habit, and every interpretation of reality. And the truth is, you do not get what you want. You get what you expect. You get what your identity is calibrated for. If your inner narrative is rooted in scarcity, your life will mirror scarcity. Even if you work hard, pray hard, plan hard, or desire abundance with all your heart. But if your inner narrative shifts to prosperity, even before results appear, your life begins to reshape itself to match this new identity. This is why you can place two people in the same financial situation, give them the same tools, the same opportunities, even the same market conditions, and one of them will flourish while the other remains stuck. The difference is never luck. It is identity. It is the internal narrative that silently whispers, "This is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I expect from life." Scarcity thinkers identify with their fears, limitations, and past failures. Prosperity thinkers identify with their potential, their future, and their capacity to grow. And here's the part most people never realize. Your identity is not fixed. It is not your destiny. It is not a signature you're born with. It is a story you adopted and a story you can rewrite. This is where the true reprogramming begins. Think about your financial identity for a moment. When you were growing up, you absorbed beliefs from your environment without choosing them. Maybe you heard sentences like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "Rich people are greedy," "Life is hard," "We can't afford that," or "Be grateful for what you have and don't ask for more." These words became emotional codes inside you. They became part of the story, not because they were true, but because repetition turned them into subconscious programming. Children don't question beliefs, they absorb them. Adults rarely question them either, they reinforce them. So today, your decisions may still be coming from old conditioning, even if your intentions are aligned with abundance. You may be trying to grow financially while your subconscious identity is still stuck in patterns of fear, guilt, or unworthiness. You may be dreaming big, but acting small. You may want wealth, but feel uncomfortable receiving it. You may want success, but sabotage opportunities because they don't match the internal narrative you've carried for years. But the moment you recognize this, truly recognize it, you take back your power. You stop living under inherited beliefs that were never yours. You stop repeating stories that don't align with your potential. You stop letting old emotional patterns decide your future. And this is where the identity shift begins, not by forcing change, but by becoming conscious of the narrative running your life. Look at people who transformed their lives in extraordinary ways. Their success always began with a shift in identity, not a shift in circumstance. Take J.K. Rowling, who wrote the first Harry Potter book while broke, depressed, and living on government assistance. She didn't write from scarcity. She wrote from the identity of someone who believed she had something powerful to offer the world. She didn't wait to become successful to feel worthy. She felt worthy first, and success followed. Or consider Elon Musk. Even after multiple failures, crashes, bankruptcies, and public doubt, he never operated from the identity of lack. He operated from expansion, vision, innovation, and self-belief. He saw himself as someone capable of changing industries, and that's exactly what he did. Identity precedes outcome, always. Your internal narrative is your blueprint, and until you rewrite the blueprint, the structure of your life cannot change. But the moment you shift the story, everything else begins to rearrange itself. Opportunities appear because you finally notice them. People gravitate toward you because your energy becomes magnetic. Decisions become clearer because you're no longer choosing from fear. Prosperity thinking becomes natural because it aligns with who you believe you are. So, how do you reprogram your internal narrative? It begins with awareness. You listen to the thoughts you normally ignore. You observe the emotional reactions you usually suppress. You notice the moments when you shrink yourself, doubt yourself, or talk yourself out of something aligned with your expansion. You become aware of the sentences that play in your mind whenever you think about money, success, or your future. Awareness is the first step because you cannot change a story you don't recognize. Then comes the second step, questioning the story. You ask yourself, who told me this? Where did this belief come from? Is it objectively true or emotionally familiar? You begin to separate truth from conditioning. You begin to detach from stories that belong to your parents, teachers, culture, past experiences, or survival fears. And as soon as you question a belief, its power weakens. Scarcity cannot survive inquiry. The third step is embodiment. You replace the old narrative with a new identity rooted in expansion. You begin to think as the future version of yourself. You make decisions like someone who trusts their potential. You speak about your goals as if they are unfolding. You treat yourself as someone worthy of wealth, peace, prosperity, and abundance, not someday, but now. You begin to align your actions with the version of you that already exists in your highest timeline. This is exactly what millionaires do, consciously or unconsciously. They think from the future, not the past. They move from identity, not fear. They align with the person they are becoming, not the version they used to be. That's why their success compounds, because their identity aligns with abundance, and abundance follows identity. The moment you shift your internal narrative, you shift your reality, not instantly in the physical world, but instantly in your emotional world. And that emotional shift begins to reshape your perception, your energy, your decisions, and your results. Prosperity begins inside you long before it appears around you. You are not limited by your past identity. You are limited only by the story you continue to tell. Change the story, and everything else will change with it. Topic 4. The energy of expansion. How prosperity thinking changes your vibration, decisions, and destiny. There is a fundamental truth about prosperity that most people never learn. Abundance is not something you chase, it is something you emit. And what you emit determines what you attract. When your mind is rooted in scarcity, your energy collapses, your decisions weaken, your creativity shrinks, your intuition becomes blocked, and suddenly life feels heavy, slow, and frustrating, as if every step forward requires a battle. But when your mind shifts toward prosperity thinking, everything inside you opens, your energy expands, your decisions strengthen, your ideas multiply, your intuition awakens, and life begins to respond differently, not because circumstances magically changed, but because you changed the frequency you are operating from. This is why some people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly. They're not luckier, they're aligned. Their emotional vibration is calibrated to expansion, not fear. Their internal state is synchronized with growth, not contraction. Their identity is rooted in possibility, not limitation. And because energy precedes outcome, everything they touch begins to move in the direction of abundance. To understand this deeply, imagine two people standing in the exact same room, facing the exact same opportunity. One sees risk, danger, loss, embarrassment, judgment, and disappointment. The other sees potential, growth, connection, elevation, and expansion. The opportunity doesn't change. The mindset does. The energy does. The inner lens does. And that inner lens determines the outer reality. Let's go deeper. The reason prosperity thinkers create momentum faster is because their energy matches the future they want to create. They make decisions from clarity, not panic. They act from intuition, not fear. They see possibilities others overlook. They move forward when others hesitate, and they stay consistent long enough for results to compound. You can see this pattern in some of the world's greatest innovators. Think of Tesla, the company, not just Elon Musk. For years, people mocked electric vehicles. Too expensive, too slow, too unrealistic, too futuristic. Scarcity thinkers saw limitation. They saw a closed door. But prosperity thinkers saw the future. They saw evolution. They saw a world that hadn't arrived yet but was already taking shape. They acted from expansion, and because their energy aligned with the future, they helped create it. Or look at someone like Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba. He applied to dozens of jobs and was rejected every time. Even KFC rejected him. Scarcity could have destroyed him. His self-esteem could have collapsed. But instead, he embodied the energy of expansion. He believed in a future version of himself that no one else saw. He operated from vision, not validation. Prosperity thinking doesn't require applause. It requires alignment. This is how people who start with nothing end up building historic levels of success. They align their energy with abundance before the results show up. And once your energy shifts, your decisions shift. When your decisions shift, your trajectory shifts. And when your trajectory shifts, your destiny follows. Now, let's bring this into your life. Most people think they're struggling with money, but what they're really struggling with is energy. When you are in a low emotional vibration, a state of doubt, fear, guilt, comparison, insecurity, you cannot access your highest intelligence. You cannot see solutions clearly. You cannot think long-term. You cannot act boldly. Your nervous system shuts down your creativity and locks you into survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, everything becomes harder. You postpone important decisions. You avoid opportunities because you feel unprepared. You cling to comfort zones that keep you stuck. You exhaust yourself trying to control outcomes instead of expanding into your potential. You overthink instead of taking aligned action. Scarcity thinking drains your energy until you can only see obstacles. But here's the incredible part. The moment you elevate your emotional state, even slightly, you access a higher level of thinking instantly. When you shift into gratitude, clarity rises. When you shift into possibility, solutions appear. When you shift into confidence, even fragile confidence, the universe begins rearranging itself in ways you couldn't imagine. You've experienced this before. Think about moments in your life when you felt empowered, optimistic, inspired, determined, or deeply connected to your goals. Ideas flowed, conversations aligned, unexpected opportunities appeared. You had energy, you had intuition, you had clarity. That was the frequency of prosperity moving through you. That was your true self. Unrestricted, unburdened, unlimited. Prosperity is not an external force. It is an internal frequency. It is the energy of expansion that lives inside you, buried beneath layers of fear, conditioning, and mental noise. When you activate it, through awareness, intention, belief, or aligned action, you rise instantly. You step into a higher version of yourself. This is why wealthy thinkers make decisions differently. They don't make decisions based on fear of losing. They make decisions based on the possibility of winning. They don't think about what could go wrong. They think about how to make things go right. They don't fixate on obstacles. They focus on solutions. They don't invest from insecurity. They invest from vision. And because their energy is expansive, their results follow the same pattern: expansion. Remember this: your energy teaches the universe how to treat you. If you vibrate at fear, you attract situations that confirm fear. If you vibrate at scarcity, you attract limitations that reinforce scarcity. But when you vibrate at expansion, life expands with you. You are not meant to live in contraction. You are not meant to shrink to fit the beliefs you inherited. You are not meant to dim your potential to satisfy your fears. You are meant to expand into abundance, into clarity, into prosperity, into the fullest expression of who you are. And once you make this energetic shift, once you choose to think, act, feel, and decide from prosperity rather than fear, you begin rewriting your future from a place of power, because prosperity begins the moment you decide to rise. Topic 5. Breaking emotional patterns. How to stop reacting like a scarcity thinker and start creating like a prosperity leader. If you truly want to shift from scarcity to prosperity, you must understand one crucial truth. Prosperity is not created by thoughts alone. It is created by emotional patterns. Thoughts may open the door, but emotions decide how you walk through it. You can tell yourself you want abundance, but if your emotional patterns are rooted in fear, self-doubt, guilt, or insecurity, your decisions will always pull you back into scarcity. This is why so many people read books, study success principles, repeat affirmations, and still feel stuck. They try to change their mind while ignoring the emotional habits that sabotage their progress. The truth is that emotions drive behavior far more than logic ever will. Scarcity is not just a belief. It is a familiar feeling. Scarcity feels like tension in the chest, pressure in the stomach, heaviness in the back, tightness around the throat. It is a biological state of contraction. And because your body remembers these sensations, you repeatedly return to them, even when they no longer serve you. This is why many people sabotage opportunities. The emotional discomfort of expansion feels unfamiliar, while the emotional tension of scarcity feels strangely safe. To break scarcity thinking, you must break the emotional patterns that fuel it. Look at your own life. How many times have you felt the desire to take a risk, apply for a new job, start a project, post content online, invest in yourself, say yes to an opportunity, only to feel a sudden wave of fear pull you back? Fear says, "It's not the right time," or "You're not ready," or "What if it goes wrong?" But that voice is not the truth. That voice is your nervous system trying to protect you from discomfort by pushing you back into familiar emotional territory. Scarcity thrives in emotional familiarity. Prosperity thrives in emotional expansion. This dynamic is why wealthy thinkers often seem so calm, centered, and decisive. It's not because they are fearless. It's because they trained their nervous system to feel safe in expansion. They learned how to regulate their emotions when stepping into uncertainty. And because they can emotionally handle growth, they can financially handle growth. Emotional intelligence is wealth intelligence. Think about someone like Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks. He grew up in poverty, raised in a public housing project. He had every emotional reason to adopt scarcity patterns for life, but he didn't. He felt fear, doubt, and uncertainty just like anyone else. But he made decisions from expansion despite the discomfort. He learned to regulate the emotional pressure of growth so he could expand instead of contract. That is prosperity leadership in action. Or consider Oprah, who repeatedly talks about tuning into her emotional state before making major decisions. She says that the feeling of contraction is always a sign to pause, and the feeling of expansion is always a sign to move forward. This is not motivational advice. It is neurological wisdom. Expansion opens your perception, creativity, intuition, and internal alignment. Contraction shuts them down. So, how do you break emotional scarcity patterns? The first step is awareness. You must learn to feel the difference between contraction and expansion in your body. Scarcity feels like pressure, urgency, fear, or hesitation. Expansion feels like openness, clarity, curiosity, and possibility. Once you recognize these sensations, you become conscious of the emotional patterns that drive your decisions. The second step is interruption. When you notice the familiar feeling of scarcity rising inside you, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty, you pause, you breathe, you disrupt the automatic emotional reaction. This moment of interruption is powerful because it weakens the old pattern's grip on your nervous system. Instead of reacting from fear, you choose your next move consciously. The third step is emotional regulation. You learn how to soothe your nervous system so it can hold expansion without collapsing. You remind yourself, this is new, not dangerous. You use breath, grounding, clarity, and self-awareness to keep your internal state open, calm, and aligned. When you feel emotionally safe, you make decisions from intuition rather than fear. You act from vision rather than survival. The fourth step is embodiment. You practice feeling the emotions of abundance as if they already belong to you. You visualize your future self, not from fantasy, but from identity. You feel the confidence, gratitude, and inner peace of someone who has already achieved prosperity. And as you do this consistently, your body learns a new emotional baseline. Prosperity becomes familiar, abundance becomes natural, expansion becomes comfortable. This emotional reconditioning is the true foundation of prosperity. It is the reason why people who heal their emotional patterns rise quickly, while those who ignore them stay stuck no matter how hard they try. You don't need to eliminate fear entirely. You need to stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You don't need to feel confident all the time. You need to feel confident enough to act. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be emotionally aligned with the person you are becoming. This is how people break generational cycles. This is how people rise from nothing to everything. This is how ordinary individuals create extraordinary wealth. They learn how to manage their internal state better than they manage anything else. Once you master your emotions, you master your decisions. Once you master your decisions, you master your outcomes. Once you master your outcomes, you master your destiny. Breaking emotional scarcity patterns is not about ignoring your feelings. It's about choosing your future over your fears. When you do this consistently, prosperity stops being something you chase and becomes something you naturally embody. Prosperity belongs to those who feel emotionally safe expanding into their highest potential. And the moment you learn to hold expansion without collapsing back into fear, your entire life begins to rise. Topic 6. The power of aligned action. How prosperity thinkers turn inner shifts into outer results. One of the greatest misunderstandings about prosperity is the belief that mindset alone creates abundance. Mindset opens the door, yes, but aligned action is what walks you through it. Prosperity thinkers don't just feel abundant. They act from abundance. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They create momentum with imperfect steps. They don't ask, what if it goes wrong? They ask, what aligned step can I take right now? And this is where the majority of people fall back into scarcity, because scarcity destroys action. It freezes you. It confuses you. It makes you overthink, overanalyze, hesitate, doubt, and postpone. But prosperity thinking fuels action that is clean, intentional, intuitive, and strategic. Let's be clear, abundance is not passive. Abundance is active. Abundance is movement. Abundance is decision. Abundance is the willingness to follow the internal pull towards something bigger, even when you cannot see the whole path yet. Prosperity thinkers understand this. Clarity comes from action, not before it. The path reveals itself after you begin walking. Look at anyone who built substantial wealth: entrepreneurs, innovators, artists, visionaries, creators. They didn't wait until they felt ready. They didn't wait for guarantees. They didn't wait for perfect timing. They moved when something inside them said, "This is your next step." That internal nudge is alignment. That internal curiosity is alignment. That internal spark of possibility is alignment. Prosperity thinkers trust those signals more than the noise of fear. Consider Jeff Bezos in the early days of Amazon. He left a high-paying job. He moved across the country. He started a business that most people thought was ridiculous at the time, selling books online. If he had waited to feel certain, Amazon would not exist. His action wasn't based on security, it was based on alignment. He followed a direction that felt expansive, even though it was risky. That is how prosperity works. Aligned risk creates exponential reward. Or think of someone like Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. She didn't just think about her idea. She didn't wait for the right moment. She took small, aligned steps. She cut the feet off a pair of pantyhose. She tried them on. She tested. She refined. She pitched the idea to stores. She made calls after work. She acted consistently before her idea was validated. The world rewarded her alignment long before it rewarded her success. This pattern is universal. The world responds to aligned action. But here's where most people fall into scarcity. They confuse big goals with big steps. They think prosperity requires massive action, bold moves, dramatic decisions. It doesn't. Prosperity requires aligned action, not overwhelming action. Prosperity is built through a series of small, intelligent, intuitive decisions repeated consistently. You don't need to leap off a cliff. You need to follow the next aligned step right in front of you. Scarcity thinking overwhelms you by making you believe the whole path must be solved before you begin. Prosperity thinking empowers you by reminding you that the next step is enough. When you take the next step appears. Momentum is a spiritual force. It grows when you move. So, how do you activate aligned action in your life? First, you connect with your vision, not a perfect plan, your vision. The version of you who is financially free, emotionally grounded, mentally strong, confident, creative, and abundant. You feel who that person is. You sense what that version of you would do, and you take the smallest possible action that aligns with that identity. If the future version of you is confident, what action feels confident today? If the future version of you is wealthy, what micro-decision reflects wealth thinking now? That is aligned action. Second, you remove the emotional pressure. Scarcity turns decisions into dramatic life-or-death moments. Prosperity treats decisions with calm, clarity, and flow. Prosperity thinkers don't panic if a decision isn't perfect. They adjust, they refine, they course-correct, they trust themselves. They keep moving forward even when the outcome is uncertain, because they understand that the process is what builds wealth, not perfection. Third, you learn to trust your intuition. This is one of the most powerful tools prosperity thinkers possess. Intuition is not mystical. It is your subconscious mind giving you information faster than logic can. It pulls you toward opportunities your conscious mind cannot yet see. When something feels expansive, that's intuition. When something feels heavy and restrictive, that's misalignment. Action taken from intuition grows. Action taken from fear collapses. Fourth, you accept that aligned action may feel uncomfortable at first, not because it's wrong, but because it's new. Scarcity is comfortable because it's familiar. Prosperity is uncomfortable because it stretches you. But growth lives in discomfort. Every new level of abundance requires a new level of courage, even if it's subtle, like sending an email, applying for an opportunity, raising your standards, or saying no to what drains your energy. Fifth, you reinforce the identity behind the action. Each aligned step confirms, I am someone who moves toward abundance. This is powerful. Identity is built through repetition. Every aligned action strengthens the story of prosperity inside you. Every aligned action tells your subconscious mind, this is who we are now, and your reality begins to shift accordingly. Finally, you allow results to unfold naturally. Scarcity creates stress around time. Why isn't it happening faster? Prosperity honors timing. It's happening exactly as it should. When you trust your actions, you trust the process. And when you trust the process, you stop creating energetic resistance. Momentum flows. Opportunities align. Solutions appear. You attract instead of chase. Prosperity thinking is not passive dreaming. It is active creation. It is the harmony between inner alignment and outer movement. It is the dance between intention and execution. It is the powerful combination of high-level mindset and grounded strategic action. Your life will not change because you want abundance. It will change because you act from abundance. Every step you take with aligned energy becomes a seed planted in the soil of your destiny. And once those seeds begin to grow, your entire life transforms. Topic 7. The prosperity environment. How your surroundings, relationships, and daily input shape your financial destiny. You can have the most powerful mindset in the world, the clearest identity, the strongest intentions, and even the most aligned action. But if your environment is wired for scarcity, it will slowly pull you back into old patterns. Most people underestimate how profoundly their environment influences their financial destiny. They assume that mindset is personal and external factors don't matter. But neuroscience, psychology, and lived experience all prove the same thing. Your environment shapes your behavior, your emotional patterns, and your expectations more strongly than your conscious mind does. Prosperity thinkers understand this. They don't just change their thoughts, they change their surroundings. They don't just build new beliefs, they build new environments that support those beliefs. They don't just hope for abundance, they create conditions where abundance becomes the natural outcome. Let's begin with something simple yet profoundly powerful: the people around you. Human beings are wired to adapt to the emotional and behavioral patterns of their tribe. If you spend your time around people who complain about money, who fear opportunities, who judge ambition, who criticize wealth, who reinforce lack and limitation, it will influence you, no matter how strong your intentions are. Scarcity is contagious, but prosperity is also contagious. The question is, which energy are you unconsciously absorbing every day? Think of any wealthy person, any billionaire, any highly successful entrepreneur. Their environment did not happen by accident. They curated it. They protected it. They invested in it. Look at someone like Warren Buffett. He spends most of his time reading, learning, analyzing, and surrounding himself with thinkers who elevate his mind. He doesn't allow noise into his environment. He doesn't allow emotional chaos. He doesn't allow scarcity-based voices to interfere with his clarity. He guards his mental space like treasure because he knows it is treasure. Or consider Oprah. She talks often about the importance of curating her circle, letting go of people who drain her energy, and surrounding herself with those who inspire, challenge, and expand her. This is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Prosperity cannot grow in a toxic environment. Abundance cannot expand where energy is constantly being drained. Creativity cannot flourish around chronic negativity. Now, let's talk about your physical environment. Prosperity thinkers treat their space as an extension of their energy. They understand that clutter creates confusion, disorder creates stress, and chaos creates contraction. Meanwhile, simplicity creates clarity, order creates calm, beauty creates inspiration. Abundance thrives in environments where your nervous system feels supported, not overwhelmed. You don't need a mansion to feel abundant. You need a space that reflects who you are becoming. This is why so many people feel a sudden surge of motivation after cleaning their home, organizing their desk, or rearranging their space. It's not psychological coincidence. It's identity alignment. Your external world mirrors your internal world, and when one shifts, the other follows. Then there is the environment of information, the books you read, the videos you watch, the voices you listen to, the content you consume, the stories you internalize. Every piece of information you absorb is shaping your belief system, either opening you or limiting you. Most people unconsciously consume scarcity-based content every day. News filled with fear, conversations filled with complaints, social media filled with comparison, stories filled with limitation. This constant input reinforces the emotional frequency of lack without you even realizing it. Prosperity thinkers do the opposite. They feed their minds with content that expands them. They read about success, innovation, psychology, leadership, manifestation, wealth creation, spirituality, and personal growth. They consume stories that elevate their identity, not crush it. They study people who inspire them, not people who drain them. They choose inputs that match the person they want to become, not the person they're trying to leave behind. Your daily input is one of the strongest forces shaping your financial destiny. There is also the environment of habits, your routines, your rituals, your daily behaviors. Prosperity thinkers cultivate habits that reinforce abundance. They set aside time for reflection, learning, clarity, creativity, and personal growth. They practice gratitude not as a cliché, but as a neurological tool to elevate their emotional frequency. They take care of their bodies, not for aesthetics, but because physical energy fuels mental clarity and abundance. They build discipline not to punish themselves, but to free themselves. They create systems that support success, so prosperity becomes a natural byproduct of their lifestyle. Scarcity thinkers do the opposite. They repeat habits that keep them stuck: reactive mornings, chaotic days, emotional decisions, financial avoidance, disorganization, procrastination, and constant distractions. These habits create an environment where prosperity cannot root itself, not because the person lacks intelligence or ability, but because their environment is pulling them in the opposite direction of their goals. Here is the most important truth of this entire topic. Environments shape identity more powerfully than identity shapes environment. You can be a prosperity thinker internally, but if your surroundings constantly drag you back into scarcity, the friction will exhaust you. You will feel like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You will feel like abundance is possible, but always slipping from your fingers. You will feel the desire to rise, but the pressure to shrink. The solution is not to fight your environment, it is to redesign it. You must consciously choose who you spend time with, what energy you allow, what content you consume, what habits you practice, and what spaces you live in. You must create an ecosystem that supports the identity you are building. Your environment should whisper abundance, not scarcity. It should support expansion, not contraction. It should pull you upward, not drag you backward. And when your environment aligns with your identity, everything accelerates. Your clarity, your confidence, your opportunities, your decisions, your prosperity. Prosperity becomes easier not because life becomes easier, but because your environment becomes aligned with who you are becoming. Topic 8. The wealth frequency: how gratitude, belief, and inner peace turn into real prosperity. There is a dimension of prosperity that few people ever tap into, yet it is the foundation of every sustainable, long-term transformation. It is the emotional frequency that wealthy thinkers live in, and it is the emotional frequency that scarcity thinkers never access. This frequency is built from 3 core states: gratitude, belief, and inner peace. These are not spiritual cliches or motivational slogans. They are the emotional states that scientifically elevate your mind, sharpen your intuition, calm your nervous system, and open the pathways through which prosperity flows. Let's start with gratitude, not the surface-level kind where you say thank you because you're supposed to, but the deeper form that shifts your entire energy field. Gratitude is the fastest emotional pathway out of scarcity because it redirects your attention from what is missing to what is available. Scarcity says, look at what you don't have. Gratitude says, look at what is already supporting you. Scarcity collapses your energy. Gratitude expands it. When you generate gratitude, your nervous system shifts from survival mode into alignment mode. Your mind stops obsessing over fear and begins opening to possibility. This is why so many successful people practice gratitude daily. Oprah has famously said that gratitude is the single most powerful tool she has ever used to transform her life. Not because it magically creates money, but because it creates the emotional clarity that allows wealth to flow. Gratitude sharpens your intuition. It unlocks creativity. It heightens awareness. It increases resilience. It strengthens decision-making. It energetically prepares you to receive more. Without gratitude, you can gain wealth but never feel wealthy. With gratitude, you create wealth from the inside out. Now, let's talk about belief. Belief is not wishful thinking. Belief is the internal certainty that your future is bigger than your past. It is the emotional conviction that what you desire is possible for you. Not someday, not maybe if things align, but inevitably. Scarcity thinkers wait for external proof before believing anything is possible. Prosperity thinkers create internal proof first, and life responds to that belief. Take someone like Jim Carrey. Long before he became a superstar, he wrote himself a check for $10 million and kept it in his wallet as a physical representation of his belief. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't delusional. He was aligning his identity with the future he was stepping into. That check was not a manifestation gimmick. It was a symbol of belief so powerful that it shaped his decisions, actions, and emotional frequency every day. Belief is the engine of prosperity. When you believe something is possible, you act differently. You move differently. You speak differently. You vibrate differently. And life notices. But belief is difficult to maintain when the mind is overwhelmed, anxious, or emotionally exhausted. That's where the third pillar comes in: inner peace. Inner peace is not the absence of challenges. It is the ability to remain centered despite them. It's the calmness that allows you to think clearly when others panic. It's the emotional stillness that helps you see opportunities when others only see problems. It's the steady energy that allows you to make intelligent decisions instead of impulsive ones. Inner peace is the prosperity multiplier because it allows you to respond rather than react. And the wealthiest people in the world, whether financially, emotionally, or spiritually, share this trait. They cultivate inner peace as carefully as they cultivate strategy. Look at Warren Buffett, who has talked countless times about the importance of staying calm when the world is chaotic. He understands that emotional stability is an asset. Inner peace is not passive, it is powerful. It keeps you grounded when life becomes uncertain. It keeps your vision clear when fear tries to cloud your mind. It creates the internal spaciousness required for abundance to grow. Gratitude, belief, and inner peace together create a frequency, a vibration, that wealthy thinkers live in instinctively. It's the frequency of trust, expansion, clarity, and receiving. And here is the secret most people never learn. Your emotional frequency is your wealth frequency. The world responds to who you are internally, not who you pretend to be externally. When you elevate your frequency, you elevate your destiny. When you elevate your destiny, your results shift. When your results shift, your life transforms. Let's bring this down to your daily life so you can embody it. Imagine starting your day not with stress, but with gratitude, not because your life is perfect, but because you choose to see the value in the present moment. That emotional shift alone activates clarity. Imagine grounding yourself in the belief that something incredible is unfolding for you, even if you don't see the full picture yet. That belief activates intuition. Imagine carrying inner peace into your decisions, allowing yourself to respond from wisdom rather than react from fear. That peace activates alignment. This is the state that wealthy thinkers live in. Not every moment of every day, but consistently enough that it becomes their emotional baseline. And here's the part that will change everything for you. Wealth does not respond to anxiety. Wealth does not respond to desperation. Wealth does not respond to pressure. Wealth responds to clarity, confidence, trust, and stability. Your emotional state determines how much your mind can access its full capacity. When you operate from fear, your intelligence lowers, your creativity collapses, and your problem-solving ability shrinks. When you operate from gratitude, belief, and inner peace, your intelligence sharpens, your creativity expands, and your intuition becomes razor-sharp. This is why some people rise effortlessly and others struggle endlessly. It's not because one person is luckier, it's because one person is aligned with the emotional frequency of prosperity. You become wealthy internally long before you become wealthy externally. And the moment you begin living in this elevated frequency, even before your circumstances change, you become a magnet for solutions, opportunities, ideas, people, and breakthroughs. Prosperity is not a destination. Prosperity is an emotional frequency. And once you learn to live in that frequency, your life cannot stay the same. Topic 9. The Prosperity Identity Upgrade. Becoming the version of you who naturally attracts abundance. There comes a moment in every journey toward prosperity when a person realizes something profound. You cannot create a new life with the identity of your old self. You cannot step into abundance while thinking, behaving, deciding, and reacting as the version of you shaped by scarcity. To experience a financial transformation, you must undergo an identity transformation. And this transformation does not begin on the outside. It begins inside your beliefs about who you are and what you are capable of becoming. Every result in your life, your career, your finances, your confidence, your opportunities, flows directly from the identity you silently operate from every day. An identity is not what you think about yourself from time to time. It is the emotional truth you live from consistently. It's the automatic "I am" that runs beneath your awareness. I am someone who always struggles. I am someone who doesn't have enough. I am someone who tries but never gets ahead. I am someone who waits for the right time. I am someone who hopes things will improve someday. These internal "I am" statements are not random. They are the architecture of your destiny. Scarcity identities create scarcity patterns. Prosperity identities create prosperity patterns. Your external reality always mirrors your internal self-concept, whether you notice it or not. Think about people who experience giant breakthroughs in their lives. Their circumstances may appear to transform quickly, but in truth, the inner shift happens first. They begin to see themselves differently. They begin to expect more from life. They begin to treat themselves as worthy of opportunities. They begin to take actions aligned with a new internal standard, and life rearranges itself around that upgraded identity. This is exactly why people like Arnold Schwarzenegger were able to transform multiple careers, from bodybuilding to acting to politics. He embodied the identity of someone who was unstoppable long before the world agreed. Or why Walt Disney continued building an empire despite bankruptcy, rejection, and ridicule. He didn't think of himself as a failure. He thought of himself as a visionary long before people recognized his genius. Identity leads, results follow. The identity shift is the real engine of prosperity. Everything else, motivation, strategy, action, alignment, intuition, springs from it. But here is the problem most people face. They try to change their lives while clinging to an outdated identity. They want abundance, but still identify as someone who is trying to escape scarcity. They want wealth, but still identify as someone who hopes things improve someday. They want opportunity, but still identify as someone who is afraid of making mistakes. And this inner conflict blocks prosperity more than any external obstacle. So, how do you upgrade your identity? First, you must neutralize the old identity. This means acknowledging that the version of you who struggled was not flawed. They were underdeveloped, misinformed, conditioned, or emotionally overwhelmed. There is nothing wrong with who you were, but there is something calling you to evolve beyond it. You cannot shame your way into abundance. You must compassionately release the old identity by understanding its purpose. It protected you. It helped you survive. It kept you safe during uncertain chapters. But now, safety is not your priority. Expansion is. Second, you must consciously choose the identity of your prosperous self, not in vague generalities, but in specific emotional truth. Who are you when you are abundant? How do you think? How do you speak? How do you carry yourself? How do you make decisions? How do you manage challenges? What standards do you hold? What boundaries do you honor? Identity is not created from imagination alone. It is created through embodiment. You must begin to act like the person you are becoming, not the person you are leaving behind. Third, you must align your behaviors with this new identity consistently. Prosperity identities don't procrastinate. They don't shrink themselves. They don't apologize for their potential. They don't wait for permission. They don't collapse under pressure. They move with clarity, even when they are afraid. They take aligned action, even when the path is not fully visible. They trust the voice of expansion inside them. They live from intention, not reaction. Fourth, you must upgrade your standards. This is one of the most powerful identity anchors. A prosperous identity has different standards than a scarcity identity. Prosperity standards include respecting your time, respecting your energy, honoring your boundaries, choosing relationships that elevate you, prioritizing your growth, investing in your skills, keeping your word to yourself, and choosing long-term expansion over short-term comfort. When your standards rise, your life rises with them. Fifth, you must become emotionally comfortable receiving more. This is where most people unconsciously sabotage themselves. Their identity is comfortable giving, working, trying, surviving, but not receiving. To shift into prosperity, you must build the identity of someone who not only gives, but receives, who believes they deserve wealth, who is comfortable with success, who is not threatened by abundance, and who sees prosperity as a natural extension of their potential. Finally, you must reinforce your identity daily. Identity is strengthened through repetition. Every aligned decision confirms your new self. Every action taken from abundance becomes a vote for your prosperous identity. Every moment you choose growth over fear becomes evidence of who you are becoming. Identity is not built by intensity. It is built by consistency. You don't become wealthy by accident. You don't become abundant by luck. You become prosperous by identity. The moment you shift from, "I hope I become this," to, "This is who I am now," your entire energetic field changes. Opportunities respond differently. People respond differently. Solutions appear. Obstacles dissolve. Intuition heightens. Your mind sharpens. Doors that were previously invisible suddenly open because your identity is finally aligned with the level of life you want to live. You are not chasing abundance. You are becoming the person who naturally attracts it. And once that identity settles into your nervous system, prosperity becomes inevitable. Topic 10. Living prosperity. Daily, the new operating system for a life of abundance, clarity, and unlimited growth. You've made it through the inner architecture of prosperity. The mindset, the emotional patterns, the identity shift, the aligned action, the environments, the frequency, the energy. But none of it matters unless it becomes your way of living. Prosperity is not a moment. Prosperity is not a goal. Prosperity is not a single breakthrough. Prosperity is a daily operating system. It is a new default setting for your mind, your emotions, your relationships, your habits, and your decisions. It's the way you show up in the world when no one is watching. It's the standard you hold for yourself when life challenges you. And it's the consciousness you choose to step into every single morning. Most people treat prosperity like an event, something that happens one day. But prosperous people treat prosperity like an identity, something they live every day. They don't wait for results to feel empowered. They don't wait for money to feel abundant. They don't wait for proof to trust their vision. They create a lifestyle that constantly reinforces the energy of growth, clarity, and possibility. So, what does it actually look like to live prosperity on a daily basis? First, Prosperous people begin their day with intention rather than reactivity. Scarcity thinkers start their mornings in panic mode, checking messages, rushing, worrying, feeling behind before the day even begins. Prosperity thinkers start with alignment. They create a moment of conscious grounding, a moment of clarity, a moment of gratitude, a moment of choice. Because the way you begin your day programs your nervous system for either expansion or contraction. Second, prosperous people treat time as their most valuable asset. They don't waste it on drama, distractions, or low-frequency habits. They don't give their energy away to people who drain them. They invest their time where it produces elevation, learning, creating, connecting, building, evolving. Scarcity thinkers treat time as something to get through. Prosperity thinkers treat time as something to leverage. Third, prosperous people practice self-respect through discipline. Not discipline as punishment, but discipline as devotion. They honor what they say they will do. They follow through on commitments to themselves. They show up even when motivation fluctuates. Discipline isn't about forcing. It's about aligning your daily actions with the life you say you want. Scarcity thinkers rely on emotional highs to act. Prosperity thinkers rely on identity. Fourth, prosperous people manage their emotional state like it is sacred. They don't allow fear to control their decisions. They don't let doubt sabotage their progress. They don't let the past dictate their future. Instead, they regulate their emotions, reframe challenges, soothe their nervous system, and return to the frequency of clarity. They know that the state they operate from is more important than any strategy. Fifth, prosperous people operate from heightened awareness. They notice when they are slipping into scarcity. They catch themselves when old patterns return. They redirect their thoughts when they begin shrinking. They pay attention to their energy, their intuition, their internal cues. Prosperity thinkers live consciously, not on autopilot. Sixth, prosperous people understand the importance of long-term thinking. Scarcity wants instant gratification. It wants shortcuts, quick wins, fast results. Prosperity thinks in decades, not days. It prioritizes depth, not speed. It asks, what builds the most powerful future? Not, what feels easiest right now? This is why wealth multiplies, because prosperous thinkers make decisions that compound. Seventh, prosperous people celebrate progress, not perfection. They don't collapse when things go wrong. They don't quit when they feel frustrated. They don't interpret setbacks as signs to stop. They interpret setbacks as feedback. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes a recalibration. Every difficulty becomes an opportunity to rise stronger. Prosperity is resilient. Eighth, prosperous people embody clarity in their standards. They know what they tolerate and what they no longer accept. They no longer accept emotional chaos. They no longer accept inconsistent effort. They no longer accept scarcity-based relationships. They no longer accept being last on their own priority list. They no longer accept goals that don't match their potential. They upgrade their standards, and their life upgrades with them. Ninth, prosperous people stay connected to their higher voice. When they feel overwhelmed, they return to the vision. When they feel small, they return to possibility. When they feel lost, they return to gratitude. When they feel pressure, they return to inner peace. Prosperity thinkers don't require perfect conditions. They generate prosperity from within. 10th, and perhaps most importantly, prosperous people live with an open heart. They give generously, not out of fear, but out of trust. They share their gifts, their ideas, their voice, their value. They create impact. They contribute to others. Because prosperity is not just about personal gain. It is about becoming a source of abundance for the world. When you live prosperity daily, you stop trying to attract abundance and start embodying it. Your frequency becomes magnetic. Opportunities come to you effortlessly. People recognize your power without you saying a word. You move through life with confidence, clarity, and flow. You become the kind of person who doesn't chase success. Success gravitates toward you. Prosperity becomes your nature. Abundance becomes your identity. Expansion becomes your language, and your life reflects the person you have become. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not someday, now. You have walked through the old patterns, the emotional shadows, the inherited beliefs, the invisible limitations, the stories that kept you stuck. The identity that once served you but no longer matches your future. And now, you stand at the doorway of a new chapter. You have everything you need to shift from scarcity to prosperity instantly. Not because the outside world changes, but because you do. Because you choose to think differently, to feel differently, to act differently, to embody differently. Your future is not waiting for the perfect circumstance. It is waiting for the highest version of you. The version of you who trusts their vision. The version of you who honors their intuition. The version of you who acts with alignment. The version of you who believes they are worthy. The version of you who lives prosperity instead of chasing it. From this moment forward, prosperity is no longer a distant dream. Prosperity is who you are becoming. Prosperity is who you are choosing to be. Prosperity is the identity you now embody, and the universe responds to who you decide to be. Your new chapter begins today. If this video awakened something inside you, if it made you feel seen, understood, empowered, elevated, if it helped you shift into a higher version of yourself, then please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below, and share it with someone who needs this message today. Your engagement is not just support. It is part of the collective energy we are building together, an energy of abundance, growth, clarity, and limitless prosperity. Welcome to the Success and Prosperity Code. Your journey has just begun.